Well, hello, Team Java, CIST 180. Today I'm going to go through lab number 2, which is going to be the first type of lab where you're going to actually write a program that will get something done. So, what I'm going to do simply, I'm going to be using Visual Code, by the way, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of guidance about how to install in your system if you want to. So, first thing first, you need to go and Google Visual Code. Now, pay attention, there is a Visual Studio Code and there is Visual Studio without the word code. We're looking for Visual Code. After you download Visual Code and you open it, before you open it actually, just download and install in your system. Right after that, immediately go and download JDK. Now, if you are using a Mac, you do not need to do that. But if you're using a Windows, I found out recently that Windows doesn't come with JDK, so you're going to have to download JDK in your system. So you just type JDK in Google, first option here, JDK download, and look for the compatible version. We're talking about Windows, and you probably have a 64 compressor. If I install it, just go with installer. That's a better choice, easier. And any of those two. Okay, so download JDK and install it, and then I would suggest to start with JDK first, and then you download Visual Code. Once you downloaded JDK, install in your system, downloaded Visual Code, install in your system, open Visual Studio Code, and you're probably going to be seeing something like this, maybe a little bit different. What's very, very important that you have to do is simply click on this icon here, which is extensions. And then here you come and type Java, and then look for the extension that's called extension pack of Java. Make sure you download that in your system, and you will be good to go to start your applications. Now, once you're done with everything, all you have to do is to go to Files. Now, remember, in your end, you're not going to be able to see this. I don't want to close it because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to open it easily later, so I'm just going to keep it as it is. But you go to Files, you go to Open a Folder, you go into your computer system, look for a folder. I'm going to create a new folder since this is Lab 2, so I'll go and call it Lab 2. Now I have Lab 2 created. Select the folder, and you will notice that the new window will pop. Don't worry about this welcome message. Close it. Immediately go to File. After that, New Text File, and you will be welcomed with this message. Now, what do you do in this case? You click on Select the Language. You go down and you select Java. Here it is. Now that you have Java, you need to save your file, so Control S. And if you don't want to go and do Control S, go to File, Save, and you should get the same window. Now, it's very, very important to give your file a name. And in my case, let me just go to the question. Where are you? Here we go. Create a personal finance assistant program. So I'll call it finance. Okay, that's the name of the class that I'm going to create. Or let's call it finance assistant. I'm going to copy the name, go back to Visual Studio, put it here. Now, things that you should do. Number 1, the first letter of each one of those 2 words is supposed to be uppercase and no space. Now, of course, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I'm calling it something that's related to the problem that I'm solving. You can call it Lab 2 if you want to, by the way. So, here we go. Now, wait a bit, and here we go. I was waiting for this to pop. Now, what I'm going to do at the beginning, I'm going to come here and create my main function. So, public static void. Now, you can see that how Eclipse will automatically generate this for you, but again, no problemos. So what do we do here? We go and type string, square brackets, and then after that you type arguments. And here it is. My project should work with no problems. You give it a test, system.out.println, and this is again me just testing. And if I click here, I should see test somewhere here, and here it is. So I got it to work. That's a good news. Let's take this out. And let's start documenting this Java project. So at the top of your project, we start with this. Now, what I would suggest here at this point is to type your name. Type, what is this? Lab 2, I believe. And put the date. So what's today? 8/29/2024. And then let's call this one Finance Assistant Project. Okay. Now, it will be very helpful if you copy the question, and this is for your own benefit. So I don't have to switch between windows as I go through the explanation. I'll put it here. Let's just give it. Let's keep it as it is. Okay, so I have the question here. I have my project here. Let's just reformat everything. Now everything looks good. At this point, you're going to have to start thinking about the solution. Now remember here, and I said that before, think about this in the following form. I'm going to break down my project into 3 sections. Variables. Okay, this is the place where you create your variables. Think about it as input or data or info. Okay, and then after that, once you're done with this part, we're going to process. So let's just give that a space as well. And then finally, we have outputs, which is the place where you show the results. Okay? Now that I'm done with this part, let's go read the question. And as I'm reading the question, I'm not going to answer the question, but I'm just going to give you some tips that could help you. So your job is to type a personal assistant program, finance program, that'll help the user to manage their monthly expenses. Okay. The program should prompt. Okay, so there will be a user input. So since there will be a user input, we know that we need to have the scanner. So I'm going to come here and say, create a scanner object. And now I'm not going to tell you how to do that because I explained it before. So you see how I am updating my program as I'm reading it? Because he said the program should prompt the user immediately. I know that I need a scanner. Don't wait too long. Go create the scanner. Let's get back here. Prompt the user to enter their monthly expense income, okay, monthly income and various expenses categories. Okay, so we have the monthly income. Well, that's a variable. So I'll say create a variable. I'm just going to, again, since this is the place of variables, monthly, I'm going to copy it. Monthly income. Now, here's the thing. You know how to create a variable. I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to tell you how. And this is your income. Okay. So tell me what data type is that going to be? But remember here, the monthly income, this is where you're going to use the scanner to ask the user to enter it. So at the end here, those are the variables. I'm going to break down this part and add another section. And I'll say use the scanner to enter. And I'm going to tell you what you should be entering. First of all, we know that he should enter the monthly incomes. Now remember here, we talked about scanner. First of all, show a message and then use the scanner. And every single data type should have its own method for scanning. Now, what else did he ask us to do? So in addition to entering the monthly income, he wants you to enter the expenses. Okay? So each one of those expenses, simply, it's something that you're going to be paying money for. Now, what I would suggest in this case, to stick with the list that I gave you here. Okay? And if you want to add to it, go ahead and add to it. I don't mind. But I'm just going to stick with this list here. So I would say I need to have a variable to store, ask the user to enter how much money I'm making, and then another variable to store how much I'm paying for the rent, how much I'm paying for the utilities, how much I'm paying for the groceries, and how much I'm paying for the entertainment. Now, after you create those variables, assign a default value to them, set them all to 0 if you will. And then after that, you have to go and ask the user to enter all these values. Okay, so in this section here where the variables is, simply you have to create all these variables, and then after that you have to ask the user to enter all these values. So that's what we know so far. So at this point, I can tell that I'm done interpreting this part. For each expensive category, the user should input the corresponding amount spent. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. Now, the program should then calculate and display the following information. So he wants you to do the following calculations. First of all, he wants to know the total expenses. Okay, that's by itself, it's a variable. Let me just come here and I'll put it here. So those are the basically input variables. And I'll say this section here is the output variables. And for the output variables, let's go back to the question. We have the total expenses. Now, do I really need to tell you how do you calculate the total expenses? You're paying for your rent, utilities, groceries, and entertainment. So the total expense is simply going to be adding up all these expenses together. Let's get back. Oh, not here. The whole point of me putting the question here is for me not to do. Percentage of income spent for each category. Well, that by itself simply means there will be a percentage of how much did I pay for the rent, how much did I pay for the utility, how much did I pay for the grocery, and how much did I pay for the entertainment in the form of a percentage of your income. Okay, let me see, percentage of what? Percentage of each expensive categories. Oh, so the total is going to be the total in this case. Now, at this point, I need to explain this to you and how do you do it mathematically. Okay, so after you add up all these expenses all together, you take how much did you pay for rent, you divide it by the total expenses, and you multiply it by 100. That will tell you how much percentage is actually for the rent. And then you take utilities, how much you paid for utilities. You divide it by the total expenses and you multiply it by 100. It's going to tell you the percentage of utilities. Same thing for groceries, same thing for entertainment. But actually, I do need to have a variable for each one of those. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy those. And let's think about a name for them. So rent, PER, percentage, utility, PER. And if you can think about in a better name, go for it. PER, here it is. This is a gift. I gave you the actual name that you can use. Okay, so that's another variable that I need to figure out. How do I do that? Okay, you want to know the remainder of the income after deduction the expenses. So basically, let's say your monthly income is $1,000. And then your total expensive was $800. So simply you have $200 extra. But what if your income is $1,000 and your expenses are $1,200? Well, in that case, if there's any remain, it's going to be like a negative 200. So simply means whatever money you're making is not enough. So I need to here copy this remain income. That's another variable that I have to calculate. Now I hope that you guys can follow the same strategic that I'm following here when it comes answering the other questions. So I need to figure out how much money is left from my income. Now the program should utilize appropriate variable data types, operators, and input-output operations to handle and calculate and display the result of this accurately. Write the code for the program and run it, include the code and the results. Now, here's the thing. Later, we are going to be asked to come back to this question and modify it. So it's very, very important to try to get it correct as much as possible at this point. So if I just want to say I need to do the calculations for all these variables, so I'm going to come here, copy that, and put it here. This is the process part. Calculate. Total expensive, rent percentage, utility percentage, grocery percentage, entertainment percentage, and calculate the remaining income. Let's just put it in the right form. And the remaining income. Now, this is the part where the magic of math should work. Okay? You need to figure out, how do I calculate the total expensive? Add them up together. When you add them up, don't include the monthly income. That's not your expensive. That's the money that's coming to your pocket. That's the total expensive. Now, as I said, I'm just going to give you an example here. Just put it here. Example of how to calculate the rent percent. I will say rent percent equal rent, that's the amount of money, divided by total expenses. And the whole thing, I want you to pay attention to those parentheses because they are very, very important. Multiplied by 100. So, well, I don't need this here. Total expensive. So you take the rent, you divide it by the total expensive, and the whole thing is going to be multiplied by 100. And that's how you calculate. So example of how to calculate the percentages. I hope I didn't misspell it. For example, we're talking about the rent percent. Okay, so here we go. After you're done with all of them, it can remain simply, if you subtract the total expensive from the total, the monthly income, it would tell you the remain. At this point, when you come here, here's what you need to do. You need to have, I'm going to just put them in the following format. Show using system.out.print line. What do you show? You show me all of these pieces of information. The one that you just calculated. This video turned to be shorter than I thought it would be. So show me the total expensive is that much, rent percent is that much, utility percentage is that much, grocery percentage is that much, entertainment percentage is that much, and this is the amount of money that it will be left in your pocket. So I hope this was clear and easy to understand and easy to follow. Now again, after all, I'm done with this part. I don't really need it here. I can take it out. I'll just keep it the way you see it here. So I'll just come here and say name. I'll put date here. I'll come here and put subject. And I'll call it Lab 2. Lab 2 project. Finance assistant. Let's take the project away because I already called it Lab project. Okay, so it will be very, very helpful if you keep those comments in the way they are. What I would suggest here, create the scanner, you add your scanner here. Create those input variables, do that here. Create the output variables. Let me put and here. Do that in this area here. And I might actually upload this file to you guys, but that will just cause some issues. So just watch the video. This is where you're going to perform the input operations for all these variables. Okay. And then after that, you go to the process, you do the calculations for each one of them. Here's an example of how do you do the percentage calculations. And then finally, this is the place where you show me the results. Follow these points that I'm showing you here. Put those comments as a part of your project, and I'll guarantee you, you get the full grade if you can manage to make it work with no problems. So, thank you for watching. I will post the video in a second. Thank you again. Bye.